What's going on, guys? Freddy Finance here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how China's economy is basically collapsing. The world economy was already worried about rising interest rates and high inflation when another concern came to the surface, which is the fears of China's economic collapse in regards to the whole economy. Depositors are losing their sleep over the impending crisis and is preparing to withdraw all of their money. With China being a global growth engine, it's hard to believe that the country has landed in such a crisis. Before diving into these reasons, let's consider the importance of the Chinese economy and how it contributes to the world. China joined the World Trade Organization back in 2001, and this has led the integration within the world over the past few years on how they have basically overtaken the US in becoming the center of the global trading system. Huge global giants like Tesla and Apple have their manufacturing bases in China because things are much cheaper there. And tying it to China's share in world exports, it has quadrupled from 4% to 15% over the last year. And on the contrary, the US saw a decline in the percentage of their exports. Since you're learning something out of this, please smash that like button and the subscribe button as well for more finance content as well as current event content. So China overtakes the US in one more aspect. It has become the leading world economy in accordance with the purchasing power parity parameter. This is pretty big for them. But while COVID-19 was a great shock to the entire world, the Chinese economy took most of the brunt, obviously because it came from China, and since they're the center of global supply chain of electronic products, things got haywire there. Now, let's dive into the main reasons behind the Chinese economic crisis. With COVID-19 bringing such strict lockdowns that the Chinese government imposed in major cities such as Shanghai and Beijing, this really caused the main stringent of the slowdown in the supply chain because the whole economy of China was shut down. They couldn't really do anything. Experts have estimated that such strict lockdown will slow down the Chinese economy in the rest of 2022 and even possibly to 2023. The International Monetary Fund, known as the IMF, has lowered the Chinese GDP growth projection from 4.4%, which was put out in April of 2022, to 3.3% in the July outlook. This also cuts down the GDP outlook for 2023 from 5.1% to 4.6%. This is really not good for them. These problems are rooted back to the 2008 crisis because during this time, the banks were given an implicit guarantee by the government to put credit out to housing. And this resulted in a huge leap back in credit around the year because most of the credit was put in towards the property and real estate, which led to the spike in prices. And economists have been worried and warned several times that bank lending will lead to this crisis, which we've seen similarly before in a different light. During 2011 and 2015, there was such a sharp decline in the prices that this scenario seemed that like the banking crisis would become unavoidable, but the government averted it, as most governments typically do when crises come. They tend to print a bunch of money and try to keep it afloat. So the Chinese economic meltdown is going to affect the rest of the world, and it could be wrong to say that only China's 2022 growth projections that have been lowered by the IMF are going to only affect China. No, since they are such a global supply provider, this is going to have a ripple effect across other countries. In the case of the supply of goods from China, this is going to most likely result in higher consumer goods prices throughout the whole world. And we've already pretty much been seeing that since COVID has happened. But if there's a decline in Chinese demand for supplies by the world, then the countries that are dependent hugely on China's exports, like America, will suffer. To sum this all up, the lower growth in the world would adversely impact the financial markets. However, the fact that the Chinese financial markets aren't very much integrated with the rest of the world, unlike its trade sector, proves to be some sort of relief. I hope this gives you guys a better understanding of how China's economy is suffering and how it will have a ripple effect across the rest of the world. If you learned something from this, like it, share it with a friend, and smash that subscribe button. And don't forget to stay tuned for the Finance and Fitness Digital Bootcamp. This will teach you the pillars of finance along with fitness so you can take control of your body and your bank account.